Welcome back to Endless Space 2. I'm Mats, and today I'm going to walk you through what I think are the 5 most impactful technologies in the game. Impactful being they have the biggest effect on the game, I think, or the most important to pick up. And I'm going to walk you through 5 different technologies, including runners-up or technologies that are very close or similar or work very well together with them, or technologies that I could have chosen instead. And I'm going to pick one from each tree. There are 4 different technology trees. And I'm going to pick one early game technology. So starting with that, let's think about what is the best technology for the early game. And it has to be xenolinguistics for me. Not because you get the titanium deposits, which you want, but because you pick up xeno-industrial infrastructure. And what this does is it gives you 10 bonus industry per planet. So that's already sort of respectable. It's worth considering. But the real reason why this is so powerful is that it gives you 10 additional industry on fertile planets, an additional 10 industry on temperate planets. So if you have planets that are temperate and fertile in the starting area, this is going to give you like 30 industry on those planets, which is huge in the early game. And not only is this powerful in the early game, when you can get, say, up to 80, 90 industry over 3 planets with the right sort of start and with good luck, but it's also good later in the game because you can just apply this on any new system to boost your industry there. And it's generally probably the best upgrade to just get early on almost every playthrough with almost every faction. Honorable mention goes to xenobiology, which gives you public-private partnerships, which is basically xeno-industrial for science. It's good in similar situations. Science is also very important in the early game. It's just not quite as important as industry. These 2 upgrades tend to be the most important for the early game, setting yourself up to produce all the resources you need. Because industry is so pivotal to picking up upgrades which improve everything else. For instance, food, science, etc. And obviously science is important, getting you technologies that you need to research. So xenolinguistics with xenobiology is a close second on the best early game upgrades, and definitely something you should think about picking up with almost every playthrough very early on. So now let's move on to the economy and trade tree. And here my choice is going to be impactless sites. Now, it's not because of pulver's production, which is a serviceable bonus to your dust production, but it's because of G services exchange. And what this lets you do is it lets you access mercenaries and heroes on the marketplace. Now, mercenaries are okay as a defensive measure if you have a ton of dust. Sometimes you're being invaded by enemy fleets and you need to just hire some ships, and there's no shame in that. The only problem with them is that A, they get classed heavily later by specially built ships, and B, they have very low movement speed, so it's hard to use them offensively. But this is a fine upgrade. Now, the real power of this upgrade is the fact that you can buy heroes. And it basically lets you, as long as you have a sufficiently high dust count, it lets you buy maybe 5, 6 extra governors very early in the game. Like the middle stages of the opening, like maybe turn 30 to 50. And if you have enough dust, you can basically hire heroes you want and quickly build up a good base of governors for your starting 5 to 6 systems, or maybe even 10 systems, depending on how much dust you have. Now, this is really impactful because the alternative way of getting heroes is to wait for them via the unlocks, but that requires A, that the academy is found by someone, which doesn't always happen that quickly, or it requires that you build this academy embassy, but only a 20% increase in hero generation is quite slow, meaning that impacted sites will generally get you more heroes faster. So, sorry, this upgrade, impacted sites, yeah. So impacted sites is really worth considering if you have a powerful enough dust economy, which is most games if you're going for an economic opening. And if you're going for a military opening, then you'll transition to dust production eventually. Now, the real downside of impactless is that if somebody else is competing for the marketplace, it could be that you're both fighting over it, meaning you won't get as many heroes overall. So you might have to rush it out if you're playing against the human player, but against the AI, it doesn't prioritize this. That's why this is one of my top 5 technologies for playing against the endless AI. Now, moving down to the science tree, here it's a bit harder to choose because there are so many good upgrades, and science upgrades stack very nicely with each other. But I'm going to go for the percentage-based upgrades via Dimensional Folding, F-Reality Institute, via Advanced Non-Baryonics, the Battlefield Archaeology, and via Wave Function Control, the Optics Research Lab. Now, it's hard to choose between these 3, but the reason they're all so good is because they give you percentage bonuses to science instead of flat bonuses. So you will already have built up certain systems which you've developed quite nicely with a bunch of flat science upgrades or science upgrades for population or whatever. And what the percentage multipliers do on those, so here's a good flat science upgrade for instance. What the percentage multipliers do on those is that they give you lots more science, but also lots more science based on how much flat science you have, meaning that you're typically going to get a lot more science out of these percentage upgrades with multipliers than you're going to get out of these flat multiplier or flat additions. And also these percentage multipliers make the flat additions better. Now, obviously Optics Research Lab is the easiest to get, although F Reality Institute has more of a jump in science production, so I often feel it more when I pick this upgrade up, but all of these three are really important. This is potentially, Battlefield Archaeology is going to be my pick because it has the potential to be the most powerful of all of these three. They're all excellent and they all work really nicely together. And the point of Battlefield Archaeology is that it can give you up to like 80+% science increase on a system, as long as you're at war with lots of empires. You can't always afford to exploit this, but when you can, it's going to boost your science and your most powerful systems incredibly. And it's going to feel like the most impactful science upgrade. You can't always get it though. Not every playthrough, or not every faction, not every position can afford to be at war with a ton of empires. But you're at least getting 30% out of this in the average game, making it at least comparable to F Reality Institute or Optics Research Lab. So here, these three are all very close. They're all things I want to pick up during my playthrough. But Battlefield Archaeology has the biggest potential to be broken, so it's going to be my pick out of this tree. Now, moving on to the Empire development. Here, I'm going to pick something completely unrelated to military or economy, and that's going to be the Hyperpacts, because it gives you the option to declare or join or create an alliance. And the reason alliances are so good, especially against the AI, is because they give you a tool to fight back if you're losing on economy or military. So the thing about the way the game works is that because it's a 4X strategy game, it's very likely to be kind of snowbally based on the openings and early turns. It's quite likely that one player will start pulling ahead, or a couple of players will start pulling ahead. And if you're not one of those players, you need a different way to win the game. And the best way to do that is to exploit the alliance system and ally yourselves with other players so that you stand in a much better position of winning, or stand in a much better position to win. So, for example, if you are losing, you can ally yourself with the strongest player and help ride them to victory. Or, more commonly, if there's a single player that's putting ahead, you can ally yourself with similarly powerful players and then get a victory together with them, or try and keep the most powerful player in check. So the alliance basically functions as a way for you to rebalance the game and punish, or at least try and rein in players who are, or AIs who are really close to winning the game. So the alliance has the biggest potential to change the game completely, because it lets you balance out power differences via strategic alliances and treaties. And that's why I think this technology is the highlight of this Empire development tree, and really is something you can exploit to win games that you wouldn't have won just by trying to do everything yourself. So that has to be my choice for the best technology in Empire development. Now, moving on to military. Basically, there are two things that make a fleet good in this game. A is better technology. That includes better weapons. Better weapons like here titanium missiles, for instance. Better hull types like the carrier design. Here you see the Vodjani one, and that's all fine and well. But if you don't have as many ships in a battle as the opponent, or you don't have as many command points, because bigger ships are more powerful, so they take up more ship slots. You're not going to win even if you have, or you're sometimes going to lose despite having way better guns. And that's why the second important thing about fleet battles is command points. Command points lets you deploy more fleets in a battle at the same time. And the upgrade that does the most for command points by far is this integrated theaters. It gives you 2 command points per hull types on Empire. And once you've got, at the point of the game where you're thinking of picking this up, you already have at least 4 new hull types unlocked, potentially also the carrier. So this gives you the most command points of any upgrade in the game. And so it does more for your military fleets than any other upgrade in the game, be it military or command point upgrade wise. So getting better guns is fine and well, but getting potentially twice as big or twice as many ships in your fleet is a huge upgrade, and that's why integrated theaters, which you get from Universal Aerodynamics, is an amazing upgrade and something you absolutely must have if you ever plan on engaging in any fleet battles at all. You can like slow down your carrier construction, for instance. You can skimp on one of these better weapon types if you don't have strategics, but picking up Universal Aerodynamics is a complete must for any playthrough which even thinks about having a military engagement. And you also get nice bonuses on the side, like boarding pods, which are decent weapons if you don't want to destroy enemy ships and try and take them over instead, and air units for ground battles, which lets you really rock, paper, scissors players relying on tanks. And before these are unlocked, obviously tanks are the best choice, so if you're ahead in technology, you can exploit this as well. But again, the big takeaway is integrated theaters, making this the best military technology. Possible runners-up include maybe obliterator technology, although I think having better fleets is probably going to be more applicable in general than the obliterator, which is more of a techie choice. It's still very powerful, but this is just always going to be good, so that's my pick. So, again, Xenolinguistics for Xeno-industrial infrastructure, impactless sites for getting heroes from the marketplace, then these 3 percentage-based science upgrades for my science pick, where I pick a battlefield archaeology as the potentially most broken and therefore the most potentially impactful, although it's very situational. And here, Intergalactic Relations School for the Empire development, because it gives you the ability to make alliances, rebalancing the gameplay, even if you're not the winning player. And lastly, integrated theaters from Universal Aerodynamics as the way to really boost your fleet's power level for having more ships available in any fight. So those are the 5 big technologies to watch out for, obviously with runners-up like the public-private partnerships and the other percentage-based sciences. And I hope I've given you some idea of why these technologies are so powerful and why you should think about picking them up or trying to maximize them in any playthrough where those are going to help you. They're not always going to be good, but when they're good, I think they have the biggest potential of really swinging a game or really pulling you ahead or pulling you back from behind. Or just things you always want because they're just always good. So thanks for joining me here. Let me know what you think about my picks. If you disagree, agree, what things you would have chosen differently. As always, there's no really correct answer, but I hope these reasons will help give you an idea of why certain technologies can be powerful. Obviously, check out my channel for a bunch of walkthroughs on Endless Legend. I'll be adding more soon. And hopefully seeing some of these technologies in action. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you had fun and learned something, and I'll see you next time.